Okay, I'm going to talk about capitalism and socialism. Now, there's a lot of debate between these two words. A lot of people want to argue for one side or the other, but the truth is they are actually one of the same. And that might not make sense to you, but I'm going to explain why. Okay, so obviously if you go and look on YouTube, you look up capitalism versus socialism, you're going to find a lot of debates between those two things. You're going to find people arguing for one or the other. But as I said, they're actually one of the same. And why is that? Well, let's define capitalism. Okay, capitalism is an economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit. Now, socialism is, I'll define it formally, is a political and economic theory of social organization which advocates that the means of production, distribution, and exchange should be owned or regulated by the community as a whole. So, socialism doesn't create profits. Socialism determines the distribution of the profits that capitalism creates. So, in other words, every capitalistic economy is socialistic to an extent. Okay, you can imagine every capitalistic economy has a socialism slider that goes from like left to right. Okay, from 0 to 100. Every capitalistic economy falls somewhere on that scale. Okay, as that scale approaches 0, we see wealth inequality increase, and as that wealth inequality increases, basically the owners are claiming the profits, right? And as that socialism slider approaches 100, the profits are more evenly distributed among the employees, among the labor force, right? So, as basically what's happening is, as class consciousness increases, okay, as the labor force, the working class, claims the right to their value production, the socialism slider approaches 100 and wealth inequality decreases. As class consciousness decreases, that socialism slider approaches 0. And the end result of it approaching 0 is the wealth inequality decreases, and the middle class and the middle and lower class, the working class, they become more divided. So, to touch on this division aspect, why are they becoming divided? Well, these divide and conquer strategies that are pushed in the mainstream media, they divide the public, they divide the middle and lower class amongst themselves, and they train the middle and lower class to basically perceive that they are the cause of their own problems, that the middle class on the other side of the political aisle is the cause of your problems, right? So, as if you allow the owners to have so much power that they control the mainstream media, and through that mainstream media they control perception, then they are going to control the profits, because they will teach you to blame your fellow middle and lower class citizens for your problems. In reality, they're not telling you the source of the real problem, which is the class war. It's the economic inequality that, again, as these divide and conquer strategies become more effective, you lose class consciousness. And as we slide that socialism slider to the right, the class consciousness increases. The divide and conquer strategies become less effective, and the middle class and lower class increasingly claim the value production that they create. Okay, now to make an analogy here, we can imagine a janitor and an engineer. The engineer is, they're the skilled laborer, right? So they deserve more money for their work, right? Well, here's the thing. The janitor and the engineer are both required. They're both necessary to keep the economy functioning. If they're both necessary, then why are we giving one more money than the other? Well, let's imagine a race to the top of a mountain, okay? And when you get to the top of this mountain, you get the higher wage. Okay, that's the goal. You race to the top of the mountain, and you get paid more when you win the race. If the average engineer is being born with a silver spoon in their hand, they're starting halfway up the mountain. Meanwhile, the average janitor is being born in a poor inner city, and they're starting at the bottom of the mountain. 99 times out of 100, the person born with a silver spoon is gonna win the race to the top of the mountain. They're gonna become the engineer, and the poor person is going to become the janitor. So if we keep pretending that everyone's starting on the same playing field, and then we reward the people that win that win this race when they started halfway up the mountain, then the wealth inequality is going to increase, and it's going to keep increasing, and we're going to keep giving more power to the owners, that power and money which they use then to manipulate the public to divide them amongst themselves. And again, that socialism slider slides to the left, the wealth inequality increases, or slides to zero, I should say. The wealth inequality increases, and the result is a wealth disparity that eventually leads to revolution. Okay, it leads to higher crime rates, right? Because people have to eventually commit crimes if they don't have enough money to feed themselves. This is what leads to revolution. Okay, it's very easy to see. So instead, if we say that the janitor and the engineer should be paid the same because they both did as much as they could with the opportunities they had, then we can imagine that this socialism slider is going to the right, right? Now, what happens if we slide it all the way to the right, to 100? Well, again, every now and then, somebody becomes the exception to the rule. Every now and then, somebody in the poor inner city is going to become the engineer. They're going to bust their ass off. And every now and then, somebody who's born with a silver spoon in their mouth is going to become the janitor. So we can imagine that maybe we don't slide this socialism slider to 100, because when we do that, the poor inner city kid who busted his ass to become the engineer, it's going to create, he deserves more than the janitor who had more opportunities but squandered them. So we can just slide this socialism slider to like 75 or 80, right? And what happens then is it allows for that individuality. It allows for that everyone to have the same opportunities, but it allows people to reach higher if they wish, and some people to reach, maybe they want to live a more minimalistic lifestyle, and they don't want to become the rocket scientist, right? This is what we want. We don't want to go too far in either direction, but I will argue that we want to be at least to the right of center. Or to the right, I should say, we should at least be closer to the 100 on the socialism slider than 0. We want to be to the farther past 50. We want to be above 50. Why? Well, because when we're below 50, we start slipping, okay? What happens is we start giving more power to the owners. And the owners, eventually they slowly purchase the ability to manipulate people using mainstream media, for example. And then we start slipping further and further until, again, the wealth inequality increases, the class consciousness decreases, the divide and conquer strategies become more effective, and we slip into where we are now. We don't want where we're at now with this growing division and this growing wealth inequality and this this shrinking class consciousness. It is very bad for our future. It's going to lead to a revolution, and we're all going to be fighting our own team and not even realize it. So there's this quote that says possession is 9/10 of the law. This is a farce. Okay, this is fallacious, and the people who tell you this, they're the people trying to control your perceptions. They're the people trying to divide you. Possession is where possession really lies is in the value production. Okay, possession is 9/10 of the possession is owned by the labor force. It's owned by the working class. And if you fall into the perception that the owners own 9/10 of everything because they have higher, they have the big bank accounts, you lose the power that lies in your labor force, and you lose the power that the middle and lower class collectively hold, and you lose the perception of that power. So in reality, perception is 9/10 of the law. Okay, and if they control perception, that is when, if the upper class controls perception, that's when the socialism slider slides to 0. So all we have to do is control our perceptions. All we have to do is organize the middle and the lower class, okay, the labor force, amongst each other. We just have to organize and take the value of our labor. We just have to demand it, okay? Start unions, okay? Start labor strikes. These things scare you, but the truth is, in the long term, if we don't organize, we are going to just slide into a revolution. We need to organize so that doesn't happen. We need to reclaim the true value of our labor. And that begins, again, with unions. You hire an accountant and have them show you the breakdown of your company and have them show you where the profits are going. And then if you demand, or rather you threaten a strike if they don't redistribute those profits more evenly. It's really kind of simple. All you have to do is stop getting distracted in the racial and cultural divides that the upper class is distracting you with. And the result will be a redistribution of wealth through by sliding this socialism slider towards 100. Again, we don't want it to go all the way to 100. We want it to stop a little bit before then, but just give that a little thought, okay? Possession is not 9/10 of the law. Perception is 9/10 of the law. Perhaps you could even say perception is 10/10 of the law. Perception is everything. If we perceive that our enemies are our fellow middle and lower class citizens, just because the media divided us into these political teams that we like, we're cheerleaders for Democrats or Republicans, it's not going to work. If you haven't caught on to the fact that neither of these parties is working for the average American, then you better start paying attention, because you're gonna be the one with your thumb up your ass when the revolution starts. I mean, the people who are ready for this are they see it, okay? You don't want to be that guy caught with their thumb up their ass. You want to be the person who can you want to be the person ready when these labor strikes start, okay, when these unions go off, because it's happening, okay? And if you haven't seen the recent successes of these unions and these labor strikes, it's because you're watching mainstream media and they don't tell you about it. The mainstream media does not want you to know that UPS just made a huge deal to raise their wages. I think a 6-year deal they made. If you haven't heard about that, it's because you are watching too much mainstream media. You need to watch the independent media. You have to. If you don't, the upper class will basically purchase your perception. And if they purchase your perception, they control you. It's all about control. If the middle and lower class control themselves, then they control the means to their production. Again, socialism and capitalism, to wrap this up, socialism and capitalism, they're not opposed to each other. They can exist at the same time. The only thing that changes is the magnitude of socialism that exists within every capitalistic economy that ever existed. If we want longevity in this capitalistic economy, we need to move this socialism slider towards 100, at least past 50, because we don't want to get caught in vicious cycles again that happen when we move below 50. So the capitalism, again, it organizes markets against each other, right? Or not against each other. It organizes companies within a market against each other, right? That doesn't mean that the owners need to be siphoning the profits from this competition. We can have the laborers claiming the true value of their labor and still competing with other companies. That the competition is good. What's bad is when they fool you into thinking that you're competing with your fellow, your political opposition rather than your boss. Okay, when all of the companies in one market that are competing with each other, when all of the owners organize with each other against the working class, that's when shit goes haywire. That's when the wealth inequality increases. That's when the divide and conquer strategies flourish. Okay, it's really simple. You have to look at history to understand how these divide and conquer strategies work. So just give that a little thought. Thanks for watching.